these are three separate agenda items. Item 11 on your agenda is a response from the Agricultural Commissioner regarding the grand jury report enhancing public access to pesticide use information. And I believe Henry Gonzales is on the Zoom and can speak briefly to his response. And then we have two other items after that. Thank you.
Good morning, Chair Lopez, members of the board, Mr. McKee, Mr. Gerard. My name is Henry Gonzales. I serve as Agricultural Commissioner for the County of Monterey. So I'm going to be brief in my sharing of my responses to the findings and the recommendations of the Civil Grand Jury. I also want to thank them very much for their service, for their interest in agriculture, for their interest in the work of the Agricultural Commissioner's office, and for the very respectful tone that they took during our interview. I very much appreciate it. So the finding number one, is there a prevalent and genuine need for residents of Monterey County and other interest groups to have access to unbiased, scientifically reviewed information about pesticides? My response to this is that we agree that there is a genuine need for residents of Monterey County and other interest groups to have access to unbiased, scientifically reviewed information about pesticides. Where we do not agree is that there is a prevalent need. We agree that there is a genuine need, but not a prevalent need, at least based on what was presented in the Civil Grand Jury's report. There was not sufficient information to support their assertion, so we do not agree that there is a prevalent need throughout the county. Finding number two, the scope of the Monterey County Ag Commissioner's mission, resources, and outreach capabilities mean that it can play a central role as a forum for fact-based and authoritative information to the public about pesticide-related facts and issues. With this finding, our office agrees in part with the findings. We agree that the Monterey County Ag Commissioner's mission means that it can play a central role as a forum for fact-based and authoritative information to the public about pesticide-related facts and issues. We disagree that the Monterey County Ag Commissioner's office possesses the resources and outreach capability to create and maintain a forum for fact-based, authoritative information to the public about pesticide-related facts and issues. Finding number three, Monterey County Ag Commissioner's office currently uses social media such as Facebook, but has not availed itself of the ever-expanding range of other outreach opportunities, including other social media outlets, also underutilized by printed, bilingual English-Spanish materials that could reach a wider range of counties, different communities. So our response is that we agree, in part with the finding, we agree that the Monterey County Agricultural Commissioner's office uses social media such as Facebook. We do not agree that the Monterey County Ag Commissioner's office has not availed itself of an ever-expanding range of other outreach opportunities, including other social media. We have, in addition to the Facebook, which we only started a Facebook page within the past year, and we also only started a quarterly newsletter within the past year. We have considered Twitter, but we feel that at the current time, we do not have sufficient bandwidth, as it were, resources to expand to Twitter. As is, we struggle at times to keep up with all of our legal mandates and all of the requests and demands of the public. With regards to the recommendations, recommendation number 1, within budget limitations and personnel constraints, Monterey County Ag Commissioner's Office should create a simple, accessible forum on their website that is general public focused and that publicizes relevant pesticide information directed to Monterey County community. This website should be bilingual in content, English and Spanish. So with regards to this recommendation, we believe this recommendation is not warranted because the Monterey County Ag Commissioner's Office already has a website and a Facebook page that are simple, accessible forums that are general public focus and publicize relevant pesticide information directly to Monterey County community members. Also, that website is bilingual already. It's already English and Spanish and many other languages depending on the selection of the language that's on the web page. Up in the upper right-hand corner, there's a language selection feature that will translate our site into many, many different languages. In addition to that, we have Spanish language and also Mixteco and 3E language videos as well. Recommendation number 2, Monterey County Ag Commissioner's Office should expand its use of social media to a more varied range of portals, outlets, media, and platforms. These outlets should link to the proposed general public pesticide forums when active and also publicize Monterey County Ag Commissioner's Office rich resources of pesticide information throughout. This expanded outreach should include printed materials and bilingual English-Spanish content. This should be completed within 1 year. Our response is that this recommendation is not warranted because the Monterey County Ag Commissioner's Office already has a website and a Facebook page that are simple, accessible forums that are general public focused and publicize relevant pesticide information directly to Monterey County community. That website and our Facebook are also in English and Spanish, and again, many languages depending on language selection of the website. Recommendation number 3, Monterey County Ag Commissioner's Office should prepare its current social media and all expanded outreach channels to support contingency planning and public notification for any incidents under Monterey County Ag Commissioner's Office purview that might develop or create public interest concern. It will also be done within 1 year. With regard to this recommendation, we believe this recommendation is not warranted because the Monterey County Ag Commissioner's Office is part of the Monterey County Office of Emergency Services and has adopted a continuity of operations plan that already supports contingency planning and public notification. Our plan is designed to provide timely direction, control, and coordination to the Monterey County leadership and other critical customers before, during, and after an event or upon notification of a credible threat. Our plan was last updated March 19th of this year. So those are the response. There's additional information in what we submitted along with the board report. There's an expanded response. And at this point, I'll be happy to take any questions if there may be.
Questions from board members? Okay, seeing no hands up, we'll go ahead. Oh, there we go, Supervisor Parker.
Yeah, I was hesitated because actually I don't really have questions. I have more comments, so maybe I'll wait till we hear from others.
Okay. Seeing no other hands up on the board side, we'll go to public comment. And I'll see if I've got anybody in the room first.
Good afternoon. My name is Karen Cameron. I'm here on behalf of Safe Ag, Safe Schools. It was my understanding that our county ag commissioner was going to come and give a response. I believe he's doing that later in the agenda.
If you're going to comment on the agenda item, could you wait till we get to that item?
Well, I can't possibly because I'm a virtual teacher, so I came here on my lunch break. I need to get back to my class. Is it possible that I comment now?
Yeah, 2 minutes.
Thank you, sir. I'd just like to address the fact that we need public information. And I believe that's the item at hand, is the farming near schools safely.
Pull it up.
In regards to the farming near schools safely item, I believe it's going to be argued that there may be, thank you, there may be cost measures that are argued due to COVID. And one solution we could easily come up with is to ask the county ag commissioner to just post public notifications on the internet that wouldn't cost anything other than the time taken by the staff. He already has that information. He knows when toxic pesticides, fumigants, and fungicides have been issued, and there's no reason that the public here should not have that information. We need transparency. We're in the salad bowl of the world, up to $6 to $8 billion worth of ag industry going on, and it's commonplace that they're using several pesticides, several fumigants, and fungicides in combination, and that no one knows. Not at the local level, not at the state level, have they given a decent answer as to what that mix does to the public. And so we should have access to that information. Granted, not everyone will read it or understand the information, but put it out there so that we can understand what is being applied near us and how it may affect our public health. As a teacher, I see so many cases of asthma, allergies, much worse. It goes down the line. So we need to address our public health, and I'd like you to hold them accountable.
Thank you, okay. Then we'll go to the Zoom. I see Kathleen and Woody. We'll give you the ability to unmute yourself, share 2-minute public comment with this board.
Okay, and I do want to point out before you start the clock, we have 2 people here who both want to comment. My recommendation to the board for what you have on your agenda is to say yes to A and no to B. We agree with the recommendations of the grand jury report. We do not agree with the Agricultural Commissioner's critique of those recommendations. If you look at the composition of the grand jury, you can see, I think that Mr. Gonzales conflates these recommendations with advocacy groups like Safe Ag, Safe Schools, of which I am a member, which represents people in Monterey County. And that is not the case. We only found out about this grand jury report yesterday evening. It did not come from us. So obviously, the grand jury, which is mostly people from Monterey and South, if they are concerned, there must be a prevailing need for this information, because people who are the neighbors of the field, people, the teachers and the farm workers, those people were not really represented in the composition of this report, which was more aimed toward consumer concerns. So the recommendations are really very mild. Last night I spent some time on the website. It is not user-friendly. It's very difficult to navigate. Many of the links are either not working or missing. Just as an example, the recently added stuff about COVID was there, but in terms of local concerns, there's not a word about the smoke and the fires. In terms of the emergency response, I could find no evidence of what the County Agricultural Commissioner's role is on that emergency response. If you shop around on the website and go down to a distant corner, you can find it says, pesticide emergency, call 911. That is not a viable link for their participation. So
Thank you, Kathleen.
there are
Your 2
quite a
minutes
few
are up,
defects
Kathleen.
in
Is Woody
Thank
there?
you. Yes.
Yes, thank you. I'm Woody Rehanick, Safe Ag, Safe Schools. I did go to the Monterey County Ag Commissioner's website last night again to review it, and one thing I noticed is that for restricted materials, the notification of intent to apply those, which gives who, what, where, when, and even why, and also maps of the intended application, that these can be done online now. Now, we at Safe Ag, Safe Schools, as well as millions of people in the state of California, believe we have a right to know when restricted materials, which require special training, special permits, and should have special notice. We have a right to know in advance before these are applied in our neighborhoods, in our communities, and in our farms and ranches, adjoining senior neighborhoods as well as homeschooling and so on. So our bottom line is that this right to know could be implemented by posting online and making public, not privatized information, privileged information, but public information, making public the notices and intent to apply restricted material. Then any stakeholders, any people interested could access that information in their neighborhoods, including the aerial maps, and make sense of the restricted pesticides that are going to be applied in the neighborhoods. Then, as we are with COVID and smoke issues and so on, people can advance plan how they would take shelter or respond to those pesticide application events. So this is something that could be an expansion of what is already being done with the online application.
Thank you.
Ranchers and farmers are doing this. Thank you very much.
We appreciate your public comment. We're going to go to Horacio Amezq next. Horacio, you have 2 minutes to share public comment with the school. Horacio? Yes, barely. Can you speak up a little bit?
Okay, thank you, Chair. I just want to comment that it's very necessary that the Agriculture Commissioner can develop a way of informing the public when pesticides are, especially restricted pesticides, when they're going to be applied. Because, as you know, you have been here in San Gerardo a few times, many times. Also, Supervisor Alejo, we have never been informed when restricted materials are being applied. Sometimes the growers when they used to have strawberries, they came and told us that they were going to fumigate, and that was good. The members, the residents can defend themselves and be blocking up their windows, closing them, and protect themselves inside their homes. But when restricted pesticides are applied, we never been informed. And I think we need to keep the public safe. And this it's just a matter of finding a way of informing the public so they can protect themselves from pesticides that are dangerous to the health of the residents. So I just want to tell you that it will be good for the residents of Monterey County, and especially for communities that are close to the fields, that at least have a way of informing them when restricted materials are going to be sprayed so they can defend themselves, protect themselves from those pesticides.
Thank you, Horacio. Thank you. Appreciate your comments. We're going to go to Hector next. Hector, you can go there yourself.
Yes, hello, my name is Hector Calderon, and I'm the organizer for the Ag Schools. I'm calling it because today the board will be approving the responses that the civil grand jury report has submitted. And clearly this is an opportunity for the county to really act and address the findings in the 2019-2020 Monterey County Civil Grand Jury report that Henry had reported on before this. And as staff with coalition, we know how Kathleen and Woody had already mentioned is that we disagree with how the Ag Commissioner has really responded to these particular recommendations in the report and its findings. And so, as we all kind of already know, it's a really prevalent need that we have public right to know when we are being exposed to these pesticides, as Horacio has already mentioned, as well as knowing that the pesticides are a broad, critical public health concern, with knowing hundreds of news articles and TV spots that have been focusing on the Monterey Bay area in the last few years. And so as a part of staff, we are really asking the board to really direct the Ag Commissioner to address the gaps in information in our county that are highlighted in the report by taking really 2 easy steps that could really strengthen the public health actions in the county. By one, really expanding the successful already farming safely municipal pilot project, which really addresses the concerns of the grand jury report to include all schools, not only just the North County schools that are already just 10 schools currently, but it also includes all the pesticides classified as restricted materials. And as well as the second step would be to kind of have the county work on the expansion of that pilot project would be to immediately use low cost and low resource steps that the commissioner can do to post these notices of intent, which are the NOIs that are used for restricted materials and pesticides on the ag. And so those could be something that the Ag Commissioner can really post on his website. And growers already sort of are required to submit these NOIs for restricted materials, pesticides. And so the Ag Commissioner has like the approval and denials, and really just being able to provide those resources on his website would be a really step for him to really have transparency and clarity about what his office is doing, what growers are really spraying in the area. So I really appreciate the time. Thank you.
Thank you, Hector. We're going to go to Sarait Martinez next. Sarait?
Hello. Hi, everyone. Thank you, Chair and Board of Supervisors. My name is Sarait Martinez. I'm also with the Safe by Safe School Coalition, but I'm also a resident of Monterey County, daughter of farm workers. And I appreciate something that, Chairman, you stated earlier about how information keeps us safe. We have witnessed this with the fires, we witnessed this with COVID, and yet with pesticides, we lack information. The grand jury report enhancing public access to pesticide use information as an opportunity for the Agriculture Commissioner's Office it really highlights what we've been saying for a long time, that the public has the right to know. This report really looked at the website and the information available and really finds out that the current information is really targeted and most useful to growers and also to agriculture professionals. What is in the website is not for the public to know when they're exposed to pesticides. And what we know also recently that the pesticide illness report from the Department of Pesticide Regulation is that Monterey County is the second highest in the state from reported pesticide illness. And this cannot happen, and that the fact that our farm workers and our farm worker communities are exposed to all this risk, and we can't really protect us from climate disasters, but we can protect ourselves from pesticides. And I really urge the board to really look at and be the leader in the state. We work with the California for Pesticide Reform Coalition across the state, and we really want Monterey County to lead in making sure that the public has this right to know. We cannot let government pick and choose what information they provide. We should have this information. And it's a public health concern, so for that reason, we're asking the board to really direct the County Agriculture Commissioner to expand the website, the Farming Safely Near Schools, to all the schools in the county and not only schools.
Thank you, Sarai, for your comment. We appreciate your public comment. We're going to go to Cesar Lara next. Cesar.
Good afternoon, members of the Board of Supervisors. Cesar Lara with the Monterey Bay Central Labor Council and also a board member of California for Pesticide Reform. And would like to remind the board that this is the Board of Supervisors' response to the grand jury. And it's great to hear from your staff, the Ag Commissioner response to it, but this response is supposed to be a reflection of the board. And so it's clear that there is issues in the department in regards to transparency and who is the constituent that they work for. And as a department in the county of Monterey, we encourage you to really hear my colleagues And as we asked for transparency, we were kind of surprised and encouraged by this civil grand jury report. Just heard about it when the agenda went out from the Board of Supervisors here, and want to encourage the Board of Supervisors to really reflect back and take the recommendations from your Ag Commissioner, but also look at the experience that we've had in the community around transparency around pesticides. It's been an issue not just for our current generation, but the generation before. And this Board of Supervisors, you all could really set the tone going forward and respond and direct your Ag Commissioner to be more transparent to the community. Thank you.
Thank you, Cesar. With that wraps our public comment, and I'll bring it back to the board. There's a hand that shot up afterwards. Mr. Martinez, I'm going to go ahead and give you 2 minutes. That'll be my last public comment.
Thank you, I appreciate that. Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay, great. I do want to thank Henry and you guys for taking a look at what's possible. I would like to suggest as a cost-saving measure, and that is that it'd be easy to make it possible that out of one location, Ag Commissioner's office, the information go out to the Office of Education, who would then put it out to every school district. Now, any school district that can see where the potential applications will be done, they can get the heads up. Instead of having, 32, 33 school districts trying to find out on their own and have 32 staff members research it, it should come from one, go out to everybody, and from there they could react and do the best within their interest for their ADA, for the health and safety of their students, and for the public in general. That would also help keep down any potential lawsuits and unwelcome bad press to our ag industry and to the investors that we have, i.e. the businesses and everybody else. Because it'd be sad to see that the world will find out that our products are contaminated or not taken care of properly. I know there's a lot of work being done on health and safety of the workers and the quality of the product that comes out of here. I think we can lead the world by doing one more thing, and that's to let the workers and their students, their kids know that there's potential hazard being applied, heads up, and thereby bring down the cost that it takes all of us taxpayers to pay. Because when a farm worker gets sick, most of them are undocumented, they have no benefits, they go to the emergency room, and I'm talking about a whole crew of people or individually, and it costs the taxpayers. So we are subsidizing this issue, and I think that we can do better as a whole, and I encourage Henry to take a look at that, Mr. Gonzales to take a look at that, and look at this, plenty of students out there that can figure this out.
We're over 2 minutes. We appreciate your public comment. Thank you so much. At this point, I'm going to got another hand. Okay, any hands, if you're going to speak, please do me a favor, put your hand up. I'm trying to manage time here. I keep getting surprise hands. So if you're going to speak, please raise your hand now. I'm going to go to Carol's iPhone. Oh. Carol, you have the ability to unmute yourself, share a 2-minute public comment with this board.
Just Carol Erickson, also a member of staff since its founding as Safe Strawberry, Monterey County. I agree completely with what my predecessors on the group have said, but I'm going to suggest for the Ag Commissioner's office that there is a forward function on your computers. With one push of that button, you can contact, as has been suggested, Monterey County Office of Ed, who can contact all their schools. You can contact city halls. You can contact local fire departments and police departments as to where the location of the intended spraying is planned. Maybe contacting the Board of Supervisors so that they are aware that there might be a problem. That's the TV, the radio, no, and the Monterey County Office of Emergency Services. Don't let this be a surprise and then have to bring all the red lights and sirens coming to the place. Panics parents,
running around, teachers trying to protect their children. Do it in advance. Use the forward function on your Ag Commission computers. Thank you.
Thank you very much. So closing public comment, bringing it back to the board. Let's see if I have any board comments. Okay. I have Supervisor Parker first.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Kind of along the lines of one of the public speakers who said that this is the Board of Supervisors' response. I appreciate that the Ag Commissioner, has to deal with these issues quite often and probably is exasperated. But I'm just concerned that the responses that we have here so far, they sound like hair splitting, they're contradictory. They say we can't do it, but by the way, we've already done it. I think it's okay for the Ag Commissioner to say, I have mandated duties and my budget really only allows me to do those things. There doesn't have to be a lot of defensiveness or back and forth, and I have to say when I read this response, it sounded very defensive to me. And I don't think as the Board of Supervisors or as the Ag Commissioner, we need to be particularly defensive. So I'd really like to see a rewrite of this so that it can, if my colleagues agree, that there might be a kind of a different tone. I think, one of the things that we try to do in our responses is to appreciate the issues that the civil grand jury has brought up. And they're really talking about public information, and that's kind of what we're all about. The other thing, as a little theme, I know that taking on more communication and outreach, even social media, I think a sort of a statement that we could make is, we have Facebook, we have a web page, but maybe we can learn from the COVID situation some more tools to use on outreach or social media. And, work with IT. They know how to do this stuff, and I think some things could be fairly easy to do. I'm not the expert, but I think being open to the feedback, and if there really are budget constraints, to just say so, that's okay. But I do think that some of the suggestions from the public could also be looked at as ways to actually respond in action to what the grand jury brings up. So anyway, I don't know if that's, I want to hear from my colleagues to see if you all agree that there's a little bit different tone that maybe we can incorporate into this response.
Thank you. Supervisor Alejo.
Commend the civil grand jury for their work on this report, as I do on every report. Their time and their public service is valued, and it's a lot of hard work that goes into these reports that come to us. So I take that this work with a lot of respect. But I did want to point out, as a former a staff attorney for California Rural Legal Assistance, somebody who started my career dealing with these issues, representing workers in the fields or perhaps issues with pesticides around schools. This was way back to my early beginnings of my career. But I have to say that in my years in law and in politics, I have to really, being one of the supervisors, work closely with our Ag Commissioner's office, especially during this pandemic. I have to commend this office. I mean, this Ag Commissioner's office is probably the best in California, a true leader in many different ways, looking out for the community. An Ag Commissioner, first of all, who comes from the community and was a farm worker himself, to now being the first Ag Commissioner, and providing my observations and my critical eye, I would say his office and his staff have gone above and beyond the call of duty during a time of crisis. And some of the programs that we have in Monterey County, we are the leaders. It's not we have to be the leaders. These programs don't exist anywhere else in the state of California. And some of these actions require support or action at the state level. Monterey County has led, but if they're not, the state is not going to provide an extension of grants so that this office could continue to do work. Well, that's a limitation. But the state has the resources if it wanted to, is to do more, but it has not. But even with the limited funds, that resources that our office has, I have to say they've done exceptional. From dealing with masks to farm workers, and having our schools that have participated in this pilot program, the only one in the entire state, I must repeat. I have to say that they've done a lot of good work. And so it's in these moments when we could take our hats off to our ag commissioner and say, thanks for doing the good, keep it going, you know. And some of these reports, they provide recommendations. Sometimes there's a difference of opinion. Very often when the board does a response, that it doesn't mean that we agree on everything, but we do respect the independent eye, the feedback and recommendations being made. I get that. But at this moment, I feel good with the Ag Commissioner's response, and I want to be supportive of him because, like I said, I work closely with him, and we've been able to do a lot of model efforts coming out of his office, and I think the other Ag Commissioner's office, even those surrounding our county, should be following suit to the work that him and his staff have accomplished over the last several months, especially. Thank you.
Thank you. We're going to go to Supervisor Phillips next. Supervisor Phillips.
Well, I hate to be always agreeing with Supervisor Parker, it seems, but a couple things. I did, as was mentioned, this isn't just the Ag Commissioner's response, it's basically our response. I do think the Ag Commissioner is doing a great job, but the response was a little defensive, and I'm not sure it's the response I would institute if I was in there. I respect the grand jury. I worked with them for years when they actually worked on criminal indictments and grand jury indictments. I think they do some great things. I'm pointing out some things that need to be addressed in government. Sometimes I agree totally, sometimes I don't. Kind of mixed bag on this one, but it's not, of the responses we're making to the grand jury, this one didn't impress me as much as the others. So, thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. I'm going to go to Supervisor Adams next.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. And I want to thank the Ag Commissioner as well. He has a very difficult job, and I appreciate his comments, the scope of the comments. One of the things I was happy that he said that there is a genuine need for residents of Monterey County and other interested groups to have access to unbiased, scientifically reviewed information about pesticides. I don't think anyone could argue with that. But having served on the grand jury myself, I understand the amount of work, focus, time, and absolute energy that goes into doing the kind of work that the grand jurors have done on this report. And I just really want to thank them because it is their volunteer time to review the county's functioning, whether good, bad, or ugly. And I have to agree with with Supervisor Phillips and with Supervisor Parker as well, that with that lens of knowing that their volunteer work that has been done, I just think we should look at all of the responses from all of the various departments, because I want to make sure that these responses show civility and respect. I appreciate very much the Ag Commissioner's comments at the beginning of his report, speaking very highly of the interaction that he had with the grand jurors when they came to interview him. I did not miss those comments. I thought it was very gracious of the Commissioner to say those things, but unfortunately, when they were translated on paper, it did not seem to come across that way. And I agree. I feel like it probably was sounded a bit defensive. And to what Supervisor Lejo said, I don't think there's really any reason for our Ag Commissioner to be defensive. He's really been very instrumental in putting together some new programs that many other Ag Commissioners have not done. So I'm very thankful for that. But more to the point, I think as to recommendation to all of the staff, when you consider the grand jury's report, it should be looked upon as an opportunity to receive constructive feedback and to respect the community's input to make improvements on how we serve the public. Because the truth of the matter is, we are employed by the public. We were employed by the public to serve them, and they certainly deserve our respect. And I want to ensure that all of the responses that we have and the interactions that we have with the public have at their core the respect that is absolutely due them. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Supervisor Adams. You know, I concur with Supervisor Alejo's assessment of the performance of our Ag Commissioner through this crisis and the compounding crises that were the fires and COVID and everything else we've dealt with this year. And I understand the concerns about tone, but I think for me the bulk of content was good in terms of the material. And I know that being the representative of the vast majority of the Salinas Valley, I know so much about who has responsibility where, how are schools notified, what are those triggers, who gets those notifications, what are those buffers and distances. All that's set by the state. You know, and really I think piecemealing it county by county, and we've always said even with a lot of other issues, isn't the right way to go on major issues like this. I think it's the responsibility of the state who has that oversight with DPR and all those agencies to set those notifications and everything else, which they've done. And recently as well, holding meetings in our Salinas Valley to help create those rules. And so I share a lot of the concerns about tone, but I do think that the content was good. And it's just about approach, and that's sort of where I'm sitting at this point. But I do want to be clear that I wholly support the work that our Ag Commissioner's office does, because I know they've been stretched quite a bit this year and have accomplished a lot. And so I want to respect everything that they've been able to do to protect the farm workers and everything we do in this valley. You know, it's going to be an incredibly tough end of season here with all the continued impacts. And so with that, I'll open it up for any action by this board on the recommendation from staff.
Our response prepared by Ag Commissioner's office.
We missed the front end of that, Supervisor Alejo.
I think he was suggesting Henry might want to respond.
I would approve staff's recommended response and move for approval.
I'll second it, and we'll see if we have any, we'll see where that goes. Can we go ahead and get a roll call vote, please?
Supervisor Alejo?
Aye.
Supervisor Phillips?
No.
Supervisor Parker?
No.
Supervisor Adams?
No.
And Chair Supervisor Lopez?
Yes. So the motion fails 3-2. We have to respond, right, by law. So, Mr. Childs, in terms of time frame, can you share with us
Yes.
what's the potential here?
The response deadline is the 25th of September, so if the board wishes to take action and have something brought back, it could be brought back next Tuesday. We have time reserved in your morning agenda for that.
Mr. Chair, I'll go ahead and make a motion that the Ag Commissioner work with the CAO's office to reflect the good work of the Ag Commissioner and respond in a more respectful and gracious way to the civil grand jury. And I think I made a couple of suggestions, and I think other board members have as well. But I think, to my way of thinking, so that's the motion. And then a comment is that I think even if the Ag Commissioner doesn't have an obligation for transparency and communication with the public on some of these things that people ask for, the county does. And I also think that the grand jury's findings and recommendations were mild, they were respectful, and they really reflect an agricultural county where there is a widespread interest in health and safety as it relates to pesticides. So I think there is a way to acknowledge the good work of the Ag Commissioner and to acknowledge some of the suggestions that the grand jury are making. And I think working with the CAO's office, I remember several years back, we had, it used to be more of a habit of more departments to have very terse, not really responsive responses, and it took a while, but we have gotten much better at really providing information and responding well. And I think it's challenging to do because sometimes it feels personal, but this is, this is part of our public and civic life. And I think the CAO's office has a fair amount of experience with really finding that middle ground. So I hope that we can see something next week that really does reflect what the grand jury was getting at, and also the strengths and the limitations of the Ag Commissioner's office. And I would just say, just a little detail, that referring to the fact that COVID-19 has presented challenges and means we can't do this work, it seems like COVID-19 is here forever, but it isn't. So I think really just talking about the other realities of the constraints, I think is sufficient. And even COVID might be, we may have learned some things about how to contact people more effectively. As a county, we've been doing a lot in terms of social media and all kinds of avenues to communicate with the public. So that may be something that's available to us in this response as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Supervisor Parker. So that's a motion, right?
Yes, the short part at the beginning about the Ag Commissioner working with the CAO's office to bring back up a response for the board.
Okay. So we've got a motion.
I'm happy to second that motion.
Okay, so I have a motion and a second. Roll call vote, please.
Supervisor Alejo?
No.
Supervisor Phillips?
Aye.
Supervisor Parker?
Aye.
Supervisor Adams?
Aye.
And Chair Supervisor Lopez.
A reluctant aye. Thank you. So the motion carries, and we will move forward.